All right, the Penn State Blitz on Penn Live. Greg, have you gotten taller? Something feels different about this set, but I don't think you have.
No.
It's almost time for one of our favorite times of the year. Big Ten Media Days is coming up in Chicago next week. Penn State's got a lot of good players that are going to be out there. They have one of the hottest coaches in college football. Here on First Down on the Penn State Blitz. So what do you think James Franklin will be asked about during his availability on Monday?
Yeah, there's two things I think Penn State fans are going to want to know about, and the first one far and away is how do you replace all the talent you lost on offense? It's Saquon Barkley, it's Mike Gesicki, it's Deshaun Hamilton, it's Joe Moorhead. So Bob, the question to me is how long is it going to take James Franklin to get annoyed by all the inquiries, considering they have Trace McSorley back, Miles Sanders.
Right.
I mean, it's a pretty formative offensive group, but it's not the experience and the proven production that Penn State had a year ago.
Yeah, and I think especially with Trace, even though he is a returning starter, Trace McSorley, I think he's going to field a lot of questions about Trace and the Heisman, because if you remember how they kind of handled Saquon and the Heisman is they kind of they didn't really push, I didn't think, for him to win the Heisman, and they kind of talked about his all-around game and not really as a running back. And now that a quarterback is on the short list in Trace, I'm sure he's going to get a lot of questions. There's a little bit of uncertainty about whether or not he's a top 10 quarterback coming back. He's been left
there is some uncertainty somehow.
He has been left off some lists by some prominent people, and I just wonder if they're doing that on purpose.
Right.
I'm talking about Dennis Dodd, for one. Didn't have him on his top 10 returning quarterbacks, which I find very odd, but he might just be trying to kind of poke the bear. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Trace McSorley will get a lot of attention out there, and I do think that Ricky Ronnie and Joe Moorhead, that whole dynamic. I think that James is going to get asked about Joe Moorhead. I wonder if he's going to refer to him by name because he doesn't like to talk about Vanderbilt.
Previous coordinator,
our previous coordinator.
That's right.
Because he doesn't really talk much about John Donovan. I wonder what. But
neither.
Yeah. So I do think that just as last year was kind of. Penn State was kind of a focal point. They're going to be a focal point again just because of who they lost, but also, where Trace sits. So let's talk about second down there on the Penn State Blitz. The rest of the league. I think there's some really interesting stories, not only in the Big Ten East, but in the Big Ten West. And what do you think are going to be some maybe the highlights, or what are the things that are going to interest you when you're not in a bar in Chicago? What's really going to interest you about the Big Ten?
Well, Bob, I think there's a couple things that stand out. Number one, is this the year Michigan finally gets over the hump? New quarterback Shea Patterson. A lot of things are expected from Jim Harbaugh entering this season. Is this the year they finally make a charge toward the Big Ten championship game out of the East Division? Of course, everyone knows Ohio State will reload as well. Dwayne Haskins, their new quarterback. And Bob, the thing that really jumps out to me, and I'm curious to see what others out in Chicago think, is I think it's with boom or bust for Wisconsin. I think they either win it this year and get to the college football playoff, or I honestly think the window's closing. You get the feeling that the West is getting a little bit better. The East isn't going anywhere, and you just wonder, they have it's almost entirely a senior team. Alex Hornibrook, the quarterback's back. Jonathan Taylor, the outstanding running back, is back. The offensive line's good. Bob, if it's not this year for them, it might not happen. Yeah,
Nebraska, I think is the expectation is Scott Frost will have them good in a couple of years. Even Northwestern with the facilities upgrade, and they got that recruit, Hunter Johnson, the quarterback, is going to be, I think, the successor probably to Clayton Thorson after this year. So, the Big Ten West needs to get better. It is going to get better. I personally think, even though Wisconsin faces one of the toughest schedules I've seen in recent Big Ten history, I think they're good enough to get back to the Big Ten championship game. And I think if they get there, I think they're good enough to play with Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State. He's such a good coach, and they're so good at developing talent. I think I absolutely agree. Wisconsin is a boom or bust pick, but I think they're good enough to overcome that. Any other storylines, any other players you're kind of eager to talk to? It would be nice if Nick Bosa was going to be out there, but Ohio State's not bringing him. I think Michigan is definitely poised to make a really hard run at the Big Ten East. Jim Harbaugh's team lost 5 games last year, kind of fell apart, but quarterback play has been the issue, I think, for them last year. And if Shea Patterson is as good as he looked in limited time at Ole Miss, I mean, their whole defense is back, and they have some really good skilled talent back. I think Jim Harbaugh and Michigan I mean, they get Wisconsin at home, they get Penn State at home, they got to go to Ohio State. If they beat Notre Dame in week 1 and they look good doing it, I think it could be a big year for Michigan.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Two things that jump out at me at this point that I want to follow is, number one, you mentioned it earlier, what does Jim Delaney, the Big Ten commissioner, say about sports betting? Obviously, Pennsylvania is dragging its feet a little bit with it getting legalized, but I mean, New Jersey and Delaware are already in play. Penn State fans, if they want to, will have a way to bet on the season this year, or at least most of it. They can't bet on the Rutgers-Penn State game in New Jersey due to the state law there. But how's the Big Ten approaching this? Will they continue to push for this national injury report? I think what he has to say will be pretty interesting. Number two, on the Penn State front, what does James Franklin, in his first public comment in quite some time, say about the Manny Bowen saga?
I know.
The linebacker put out on social media that maybe sort of hinted that he was going to be back on the team. No new news yet. James Franklin can't avoid that topic in Chicago.
Greg, you did your best to kind of start the fire with Manny Bowen. I admired you for it. But to me, if he's not back on the team now, I just remember last year, they bring out their media guides ahead of time.
Yeah.
And it was last year when we kind of looked through the media guide and we didn't see any Joey Julius. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's not on the team anymore. I think we're both going to be in a hurry to see. He's going to have to be on the roster then. I don't think he's coming back. I don't see why he would come back, even though it's a position of need. I think he made it pretty clear that the door had closed on him and Irv Charles when they were dismissed from the team. But yes, about a month ago, it did sound like there might be an outside possibility that Manny was coming back. But I believe you're going to ask the question, I think.
We'll see if we can throw it out there.
You're going to get on James Franklin's bad side right away. I love it.
Long day in Chicago, so got to start somewhere.
That's a wrap now for Second Down.